All right. So this guy I walked up to at a conference and I was like, I'm not going to bother you. We'll be in touch. And I reached out to Maurice at one point. I was like, hey, man, I want you to meet me in the Smoky Mountains at this location in Tennessee. And he showed up. And we've built an amazing relationship to that since that point. And so the next voice you'll hear after this video, and he's going to get a kick out of this one, is my main man, Maurice Philogene.
What's up, Jerome? Can you hear me out there?
You're here, man. I hear you loud and clear, man. Are you at which house are you at? I know you
I
got
am in I'm in good old Maryland today, Silver Spring, Maryland, just outside DC.
got it.
Yeah.
So there's so many places we can go, Mo. I don't want to be in the way of this thing, but you're doing so many amazing things. Talk about the developments that you're doing. No, first. Let's talk about your discovery of equity. Let's go there. Let's talk about equity and appreciation and how
Okay.
you spent the time in the library, and I'll be back.
Bet I can do that. For those who don't know me, my name is Maurice Phillips. I am, in fact, a very good friend of Jerome Myers. We have built a great relationship together. And I am also a partner and brother to my girl, Erin Hudson, who was just here. And I know quite a few of you in the crowd. Um, Big shout out to Jeremy Shine for being a partner to Quattro and coming to my rescue and to Quattro's rescue when we needed insurance for a particular project that we sold 3 days ago. Jeremy, I have no words. I get, but that's the point, right? When you're in business with people who you actually recognize as friends, it makes it all the better. So I appreciate you, brother. That project is now done. Um, what Jerome was referring to was, and the topic of this conversation is the five freedoms. I'll actually expand on that. It's no longer five, it's just freedom principles. I've actually done a lot of in-depth research on why the human psyche needs freedom, because it's truly an elemental value and core to the human experience. So when people are talking about financial freedom, time freedom, geographic freedom, freedom of purpose, and freedom of relationships, what we're really talking about is how do we experience life as intended, because we're not here to exist, we're here to thrive. In 2002, I bought my first place to live about 2 or 3 years out of college. And it was just a condo in Alexandria, Virginia. I think it was 175,000, but it was literally to live because I got hired by a consulting firm and I needed a place to live. Fast forward 3 months, and that condo was worth $30,000 more because it was the beginning of the 2000 real estate boom cycle. I realized I had made $30,000. That piqued my interest because I had made someone's salary, especially the way that I grew up in Boston, inner city Boston. That was a lot of money. That was enough for me to go to the library because there was no Google back then. Yahoo was just starting. So I went to the library, and in one sitting, uh, drinking a lot of water the way that I am today, always drinking water somewhere, read 10 books in one sitting without getting lunch or anything. And I found the concept of equity. I found the concept of passive income. I had a conversation with my father about it. And then I realized I was onto something. And by the end of the year, I had bought 10 more places. And I was just a young pup at 22, 23, 24, somewhere in that range. And fast forward to today, that led to I don't know how many single family transactions. There's no way I can know. But between 2002 and 2004, I gave up my 20s and 30s for a chance at freedom using my active income intentionally from my employers. I always paid myself first. 60 to 70% of everything I made always went to investing in some form of real estate. Got myself up to 35 single family homes, and then by 2014 had paid off 18 of them. My basic needs on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs was met. I was making six figures, I think around 130,000, 140,000 passive, which was more than my employer at the time. And I realized I had really hit the jackpot. But so I had won my freedom, but you start to realize that life is not about freedom. Life is about experiences and growing as a person. So I shifted into multifamily along with continuing to travel this amazing planet to the tune of 100 countries so far while I was doing all that. So to me, life is not about real estate. Real estate is just a tool you use to create an amazing life. But Jerome's question was talk about the equity. I found real estate in my early 20s, read books, went after it, was unapologetic about it. And I find myself now doing international real estate development overseas in the Mediterranean, partnering with Aaron and my other three partners and other three primary partners and circle partners like Jeremy, who's an amazing insurance guy, to do multifamily in the U.S. We'll do about $100 million of assets this year. And all that to say, that is not my life. That has nothing to do with my life. That just powers the goals that I have around purpose and relationships and how I want to live. So let me drop it there, Jerome, and see where you want to go with the chat. Let folks know the initial story.
So you brought up the Atlanta deal, so we got to talk about it. You just made a lot of money, like a lot of money. So talk about how you got involved in that deal, how you partnered with that person, or why you partnered with that person is probably a better question. And then the dip, because you had to push some chips in, and then reward on the backside, so people fully get, like, I talked about getting punched in the face last night, and so I think this is a great story on how if you go through the battle, you can win big.
Yeah, when I refer to me or I am talking about Quattro. I'm talking about my family, Aaron, Kim Wendland, Chad Sutton, and Tammy Sutton, to be clear. But we were engaged to purchase a property in inner city Atlanta back in October, September of 2019. This is just at the formation of Quattro. So a little bit I was pushing this, and then I asked my Quattro partners for help. I wanted to do this property because it was in West End, Atlanta, looked very similar to how I grew up in inner city Boston. I talked about freedom principles. One of those principles is purpose. One of my purposes in real estate is to give people affordable homes. Although I own properties in DC itself that rent for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, I really don't like that. That's people with disposable income. I'm much more aligned with workforce housing where it's 500 to maybe 1,000 or 1,100 bucks a month. So this is West End Atlanta, 36 units, purchased around 2 million or 2.5 million, I should say. And as soon as we bought it, I'm going to tell you the closing date. March 16th of 2020 was the closing date. If you remember, COVID became real to people around March 20th. So what ended up happening, we made this deal, started operating the property, and within 4 weeks, roughly 40 to 50% of the tenancy stopped paying. Now, a lot of them needed to stop paying because they lost jobs, and I'm okay with that. But a lot of them also took advantage of the eviction moratorium and just stopped. Well, we have investors on that project, myself included. I have always, since the 2008 financial downturn, been very astute at always having reserves available. I'll typically have anywhere from 200 to now $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 of reserves for any reason, life, real estate, anything. So fortunately, I had reserves available because we were unwilling to go back to investors to ask for funds to keep the property floating. In fact, we doubled down on it. What we found when we purchased the property is that the seller was a bit scrupulous. He was operating more as a landlord, and we didn't, excuse me, more as a slumlord. And some of that was not caught in due diligence. But I talked to Aaron and the rest of the Quattro partners. We doubled down on improving the property. We brought the units from a D plus class to a C plus class using, quite frankly, our own funds to do it. It was the right things for the tenancy to take that step. And then lastly, as we were trying to turn over the tenant base from the rugrats that should not have been there, so we could take care of the quality people that should be there, I happened to be on a trip in the Mediterranean, and I was looking for nonprofit organizations to partner with because it was an opportunity with roughly 30–40% of the building vacant after we started getting people out, to partner with a nonprofit to try and get people into it. Lo and behold, we connected with a nonprofit called Open Doors. We started working with folks or families that were homeless or affected by homelessness, got 33% of the property filled with that tenancy base. They had a trajectory for employment that was a must, but they really needed safe and affordable housing, and we took a chance. And it worked out extremely well. It's interesting that all of those families have never been late, ever, on payment because of their gratitude. That property went from an effective rent of $704 a month to roughly $860 a month. We walked out of it 3 days ago, totally turned the property, totally turned the acidity that was there. They knew that there was a Black owner. The entire population is a Black population. I went down, I spent time with some of the tenants. I put a table out one weekend, and it all worked out for the best. And here's the best part of that whole thing, including giving all those families homes and making the place better, was that I found the right buyer. We found the right buyer. It was a young lady. She's a sister as well. She's African American as well. She went to Spelman. She wants to be in the inner city. She wants to be a part of people's success. She was doing a 1031. We had other offers from corporate types, small LLCs, things of that nature, but she was the right owner to keep up the trajectory of where this building was going to go. So I now know that me personally and Quattro as a team helped out 50 families have a better life. And then we walked away with over $1 million to do the next project. And that, to me, that's what real estate is all about, that everybody can win. I'm not interested in gouging people. I don't want to work with people who are just about the money. I want to work with people who want to have outcomes like this for folks' lives. So that was the Atlanta story that just finished up, and I posted about it on LinkedIn and Instagram.
Beautiful story. You made a little bit of money, even though you didn't talk about that part. That's okay.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. So you made a pretty abrupt pivot, and it was one similar to mine. You weren't telling anybody about what you were doing or how you were doing it or really anything. You were just kind of cruising along, doing your thing. And you made an adjustment. So let's dig into that a little bit, and then we'll go to your next deal in Georgia that was earlier this year.
Do you mean the adjustment of letting people know what I was doing, Jerome?
Yeah, like talking about it, being active, all of the.
Yeah, so what Jerome is referring to is I lived a very quiet life of entrepreneurial depression and success. That 2002 to 2017 era, I did everything on my own, and I was very quiet about it, very quiet. I had even won my financial freedom. I was very quiet. To this day, I've never even used, except for one time when I took my family on a very wonderful trip to Lake Como. I have still never used investment income to this day. I've always reinvested it. What he's referring to is the fact that not only was I a real estate investor, but my primary job was actually as a senior executive for Accenture, which is a global consulting firm. I'm moving into my 25th year as an executive there, but actually I'm retiring now. I'll explain that in a bit. In 2008, I became a police officer because I wanted to give back to my local community. I am retiring now. I'll get into that in a bit. And I was also a lieutenant colonel and a federal agent under the Department of Defense for 22 years, and I retired from that in 2019. The quietness he's talking about is I did all those careers at the same time, to include being a senior executive during the day and being a street cop at night, and I never told anybody. A portion of the reason why I never told anybody was because I was highly focused on those freedoms. I wanted my financial freedom like nobody's business, but I also wanted freedom of purpose. Just because you make money doesn't mean that you're fulfilled. My fulfillment started to come from when I was running around the world as a federal agent, running field offices in Turkey and Eastern Africa, in Germany, in Belgium, in Liechtenstein. Who goes there? But I had an opportunity to running field offices of federal agents doing amazing things for citizenry of the U.S. and also of other countries. When I got back from my deployment in 2005, after 9/11 happened, I didn't like corporate at all because I wanted to be out in the field helping people. So I decided to become a police officer. But I had this amazing boss at Accenture, my consulting firm, who said, we're going to find you a way to do both. So I did both just because I wanted to be part of my local community and I was good at law enforcement. The shift that came where I started talking about all these different streams of things and how I achieved these certain levels of freedom, in fact, was because I met Jerome. That trip that he talked about to Tennessee, which I actually think was northern North Carolina, but where I met up with him and Devin, who's on here, and some other guys. It was the first time I told people my story, and they were stunned that I went on that journey solo and had not told anybody and pushed sharing. The first podcast interview I did was with Jerome in August of 2019. I'll never forget it. I was sitting in a hotel in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I told the story, and the amount of love and the amount of support that came from the listening community was overwhelming, because there are a lot of people who are trying to get out the W-2 like I have and had the choice to 8 years ago. There are a lot of people who are trying to find purpose and do different things in the world. And there are also a lot of people who want to operate the way that I do, which is light footprint. I don't receive mail anywhere. I certainly have kids and a family that I love, but I do have the ability to get up and be gone for 4 months at a time because my business and my personal life is automated. I'm somewhat of a minimalist. I don't like a lot of junk. Everything you take into your home or as an obligation in this crazy work world that we do, it weighs you down. And I don't live that way at all. I always want to be able to get up and go for any reason to go experience the world. So I started telling the story. I think it's some 50 podcast interviews later. This is why I'm here with you guys today, so you can pick my brain and so I can learn from you. I have realized that I am not unique. I certainly had a unique path, but there are so many people like you and I who want something different, and that ain't got nothing to do with money at all. Money is just a tool, but who want to live life uniquely different. Dreamcatchers is a great network of people. This conference is a great network of people. I'm part of the Unsettled community. If you check that out, Be Unsettled, as a global advisor now. I just love being around people who are trying to live life different and want to smack the shit out of the matrix in the face. So that's why I have shifted. That shift that started in 2019, now I'm very vocal that we can all be doing things a very different way, and real estate is a tool for that.
All right. So the Atlanta deal was a little smaller deal. You did
Yeah.
a bigger one earlier this year, and you're getting ready to
Yeah.
close another. So let's talk about this really big one that you guys did early this year and the impact that maybe that had on an alliance partner.
Yeah, sure. So we are busy. Quattro is busy. Quattro came as a result of Erin, who you just met. I met Erin a few years ago and donated to her charity, and we became friends. And she introduced me to some folks, and we formed Quattro. And I love them. These guys are my family. This is the ultimate thing that you would want in any business scenario where you have faith and confidence and trust with the people. But what that has resulted in is a very staunch pipeline of property. We markets that are going to emerge and pop, and then we'll chase properties in those markets. We've had very good success. I think what Jerome is alluding to is a $9 million close of the 4015 project in Decatur, Georgia, with one of our alliance partners, Christy Keaton, who's amazing. That benefited her greatly because we got to sponsor her, but we also got to benefit from who she is as a person, analytically, personally. She knows her stuff. That was a $9 million acquisition of 104 units. We've moved on. We've done a bunch of in-between deals, but now we've gotten to the point where we are just about to close on $25 million, 240 unit portfolio in Dalton, Georgia. And then we also have under contract 270 at 25 million in Indiana as well. And our pipeline is full. So things are ramped up big time. We'll be sitting around 100 million in assets by the time 12 months comes around that we've done in 12 months. A good portion of that is because we are not selfish. Like when we grow, people grow. When people grow, we grow. We want to link arms with people who are like-minded, understand that real estate is something that's very powerful that can help people. I don't want to just sponsor people. I hate that. Sponsoring people just for the sake of making money, I have zero interest in. What I wanted to do was sponsor people such that they get into the mode of helping residents at communities, and then whether it's acquisition fees or cash flow or whatever you want to call it, it has major impact on their lives. And that's what's happening with 2 or 3 of our Quattro Alliance partners, because they've linked arms with us. They have like mindset, they have like integrity and people values, and they are benefiting. And as a result, we are growing exponentially, just acquiring. And it is not mechanical acquiring. It is very organic, very organic. And that's where you want to be when you have momentum and things are coming your way. Brokers go out of their way to spend time with us because they see how we operate, how we think, how we're trying to treat the community with respect and treat them with respect as well as a ancillary partner. But we have this very broad team of our 5 managing partners and a few alliance partners, and we are all growing together.
Okay, now for the fun stuff. So you just gave Noah an experience that made him the coolest kid in school, even though he doesn't actually get it. Right? So let's talk about the lifestyle piece of what the sacrifices that you made and being diligent with your funds. You said reserves, but I know at one point you introduced this thing called a storage account. But those practices, what's been the payoff for making those sacrifices that you did early on?
So what Jerome is talking to is about everybody on this phone, everybody on this call today was probably taught the notion of work hard, save, pay your bills. Work hard, pay your bills, save. I rewired my head when I was 23 by reading those 10 books. Do that. I worked hard, paid my future self first, stored it, and as soon as I had enough to buy an asset, I went and did that. And oh shit, I didn't pay the electric bill. That's going to have to wait until next month, because the future Maurice was the #1 bill, because the future Maurice was going to have my future Noah and my future Jalen and any other potential family members that I have in the future. So where it has all led to, beyond all those single family residences and all the deals we're doing with Quattro, this goes to show you that I care more about life than I do money or real estate. I really do. I need to grow as a person, and from a lifestyle design perspective, I had an interest ever since running that federal agent field office in Turkey, of living and operating in the Mediterranean. But I don't want to be that American cat who shows up and just goes to the restaurant. I wanted to be a part of the business community, local community. When I get off the plane, people are there picking me up, and everybody knows who Mo is and all that stuff. So I sought out relationships, that last freedom principle, freedom of relationships. Nothing should stop you from engaging new people. I'm not talking about networking. I'm talking about you. If there are things stopping you from making wonderful, meaningful connections with other people, get rid of it. I'm talking about toxic relationships, jobs that keep you behind the desk for 18 hours a day and you're too tired to do anything. I have always sought out relationships. And fortunately, I spend a lot of time in the Med, Southern Turkey, Lebanon, Greece. And I made a connection with a now friend and business partner who's from Cyprus. And lo and behold, the good Lord blessed me with the fact that he's a real estate developer on the island. He's very like-minded from a life perspective, and now we've partnered and we are developing real estate together. I am learning. I don't know what I'm doing, because I don't know how to go to the government offices there and register deeds. I don't know all the rules about now I understand there's a rule, like if you buy 10 acres of land, you can only build on 35% of it in Cyprus. It's a very intricate thing, but I am developing 2 complexes right now, one 80-unit complex and then a neighborhood of 16 villas, and then we're working on a contract for another piece of land that's right on the Mediterranean. I want my kids to be a part of that. So Jerome was alluding to the fact that my little one Noah came with me and spent 3 weeks in Cyprus recently and totally got immersed in our new life there, because I'm going to spend, now that I've done all that work that you guys know about, all these careers and everything, I could stay and make more money at Accenture or even being a police officer or whatever. I am getting rid of all those boulders off my back because I want to have a very unique life. And I'm gonna now spend 50% of my time on the East Coast and 50% of my time kind of based in the Mediterranean, but doing that real estate work just as a lifestyle choice. I don't have to do it, but I want to leave a legacy for my kids. And my family is a Haitian immigrant family. The idea of a Philogene owning that amount of real estate, and I'll own more, and handing it off to an heir is unconscionable. My mother is still kind of in shock about the whole thing, but that's because I'm very intentional about what I do. I'm very intentional about how life should be and how it should feel, and I'm very intentional about who I surround myself with. Jerome is a good dude. Erin is an amazing woman. I seek out those types of relationships, and it landed me in a lifestyle that I do not need a vacation from. And that is the definition of success in my book, is creating a life you don't need a vacation from.
All right. So we're running up against the clock, and there's so many places I want to go. I need to figure out if you still have the check in your wallet, the big one.
Dude, I do. Let me get it.
This is crazy. But this is when you know that you're being intentional with your goals, and you're making promises to yourself and continuous reminders.
I don't know where my wallet is. We're gonna have to wait on that. Oh, it's in the car door. I know where it is because I just came back from Noah's soccer game. But I wrote myself a check for 50,000. Excuse me. I wrote myself a check for $50 million years ago. It's been sitting in my wallet. I got the idea because Jim Carrey, the actor, wrote himself a $10 million check when he had nothing. I thought I could do better than 10 million, so I wrote it for 50. It's gonna come from, a portion will come from real estate, but a portion will also come from the fact that I have followed the Warren Buffett method and just been investing in an S&P for years. I never said anything to anybody. I didn't like what financial advisors were telling me, so I just did it on my own. And I know that the stock market, if you look at it historically and research it, and I have, you go back to 1922, the stock market has doubled anywhere from 7 to 10, every 7 to 10 years on average for the last century. It will do that. If it does that, then I'll have 100 million by the time I'm 90. If I miss it, I'll have 50. I don't care. But I wrote that check, and because I wrote that check, I have always taken steps to get there. So now, that thing about being intentional and paying myself first and investing in real estate, that got me to the 10 figure. The rest of this stuff will get me to the 100 figure. The funny thing is that none of that money belongs to me. Once you cover your basic needs with passive income, the rest of anything that you make belongs to society or your family. It's all legacy. So now I'm not doing it because I'm trying to show up anybody or anything. I'm trying to do it so I can dramatically change some piece of society or some town or something. The kids will get a portion, but society is going to get the majority of it. But I have an old $50 million check that I wrote to myself years ago, and it sits in my wallet as a reminder.
All right, man. So what's the final thought? What should people take away from this conversation with Mo?
Yeah. I know this is a real estate conference. Anytime, I know Erin was talking about raising funds, I spend the majority of my time with Erin talking to prospective investors, and the number one thing that I ask them is, what's the goal? The entire thing of what we are doing here so we can have an amazing human experience while we are on this planet. If you're going to live to 79, that means you have 28,000 days on this planet. Okay. You know, once you get to your 40s, and I'm in my mid 40s now, you're on the downside of that. You have less than 14,000 days left. Use real estate. Get to the point where you have enough passive income that covers your basic needs, and then you can build from there. I think people are after, I got to my basic needs in 2014. Doesn't mean that I stopped. It just means that no one could ever tell me what to do. And that's what freedom is all about. That's all it is, right? Freedom is such that when there is an austere power around you, they have no control over you. So my employers have never had control over me. I just really like what I do, right? You can get your freedom by leveraging real estate and having enough passive income to cover your basic needs and then build from there. Please, as you are investing, figure out why you are doing it. There's got to be a reason of why we're sitting up on a Saturday morning doing this stuff. For me, it's always been freedom, and I've oriented all my actions that way, and it has led to my own version of lifestyle. And whatever your version of lifestyle is, get that documented, get your passive income, and then, you know, you'll be on your way to creating the lifestyle you don't need a vacation from.